Well, it's been a while since I played with the hydrogen generator, but I think it was last or the spring or last fall that I was playing with this thing. And the last thing I did was I made 3 cells and put them together instead of a single tube. There's 3 of them there now. And I also started experimenting with this third tube in the middle. Usually, when I started, I had only 2 tubes like this, one inner and one outer. But when you put 12 volts to that, it divides the 12 volts in between the gap. So with only one gap, you get 12 volts through the electrolyte. And sometimes with 12 volts and a lot of electrolyte, sometimes it'll warm up. But with more gaps, if you put your power between the inside and the outside, the more gaps you get, the more it breaks the voltage down like a battery. You know how a battery has like all these cells, like 6 cells, and each cell has 2 volts or whatever per cell? Well, this is very similar. So the more gaps you have, the more cells you have, the less voltage will go between them in series. So if I put, instead of having the negative on the inner tube here, if I have a third inner tube, that'll divide the voltage. So instead of 12 volts going between the single gap, there will be 6 volts per gap and 2 gaps, which brings the temperature down, the running temperature down, and produces more hydrogen also. So I made this last fall, I think it was. I was using pop bottles and stuff and water bottles when I started experimenting. But I made this, and it's only a chunk of drain pipe, 3-inch drain pipe with a cap on the end. And this seems to fit rather nicely down in there. And testing it, I just put some fresh water and electrolytes in there. I don't know if I can test it with one hand or not while I hold the camera. Might be tricky. Look at all that. Oh my goodness, it's like a tornado in there. I just put that water in there this morning, and all it is tap water and 1 tablespoon of baking soda for electrolyte. Water is not really conductive unless it has something in it, like electrolytes or contaminants. Or a lot of people use distilled water for this. I don't know why, because tap water has more electrolytes in it, so it's kind of almost like a natural baking soda. But I do add baking soda to it anyway. And if I lift this out of here, there's nothing is touching. Like the positive is on the outside and the negative is on the inside, and there's gaps in between. So if I take that out of there, out of the water, and touch it together, like touch it to the battery, nothing happens. Absolutely nothing. But when it's in the water, the electrolyte closes the gap in between the positive and negative. There's a gap, and the electrolyte fills the gap, and there's enough conductivity, continuity, which separates the H2O into HHO. So 2 parts hydrogen and 1 part oxygen, which apparently makes good fuel. Hydrogen is flammable, explosive, and oxygen, you need oxygen to burn anything. You need oxygen. So tap water, explosive fuel. I've done this before where I've captured the gas and ignited it, but not really in any controlled manner of any sort. So I was just getting random explosions. So I'm going to try to keep tinkering with it. I'm making about 3 times as much hydrogen, or 2 or 3 times as much hydrogen now with this new cell. As you can see, I've only got 1 tablespoon of baking soda, and I touch this on here. I'm not getting very good connection with holding it like this with one hand, but you'll see it works. And you'll see like a vapor steam too. And you want to be careful touching the wires making sparks, because the hydrogen is explosive. It's similar to a battery charging. When you're charging a battery, it gives off hydrogen, and batteries can explode also. See a little bit of vapor coming off of there. That's hydroxy gas. Hydrogen and oxygen in rather than liquid form, in a gaseous form. So I've got this here, and I got this last night, and it fits on there. It slides down a couple inches. I'm gonna glue that on with what is it, ABS solvent? Yeah, ABS solvent cement. And I checked it already. This cap unscrews, so I'll still be able to get into it. And I'm guessing my fittings and my wires are probably come out of there. So I'm going to try to put a lid on it so I can capture the gas. I'm just sort of tinkering here in my spare time. That battery's only got like 10 or 11 volts in it. It's not even fully charged, but I got I haven't really done much on the DIY homemade UTV. It runs and drives, but I haven't really done much to it lately. I got my old car. I've been doing projects. I've finally been getting my old car done up, the body on it a little bit, and I sprayed it with Raptor liner, and just started to learn how to edit videos with the YouTube video editor. And I was starting to just learn it, and just starting to get good at it, I think. And then they changed it, so now there is no YouTube editor. So now I got to learn how to edit my own videos or post them raw. I used to post my videos raw, unedited, so I might just do that temporarily until I figure one out. So this is what I'm doing today, pretty much out of boredom. But I do think that there is a useful application for this. Where I could be putting 12 volts to it and be getting fuel out of it, and what are you spending? Maybe a couple cents on baking soda, and the water is tap water. It came straight out of the tap. So I'm just gonna keep tinkering with this in my free time, and I'm probably going to glue the lid on next. It's not the lid, it's actually this part here doesn't get glued on. It has a rubber seal, it screws on. But this collar here, you glue it to the pipe, and then you can thread the lid onto that. So I'll probably do that next.